Happy Feast Day, sisters and associates. Welcome to our Monday community prayer in honor of St. Angela today. Following prayer, we will go directly to the auditorium at the Ursuline Center to continue our celebration. And we are definitely honoring Angela's wishes by gathering together and the long time as we've been enjoying greeting each other and clinging to each other. Angela's probably smiling and enjoying this also. And she told us that she would be more alive with us now than when she lived on earth 500 years ago in Italy. And she said she would help us even more. So she is very much with us tonight. And for more than 25 years, men and women have been engaged with us Ursuline sisters in relationships, in prayer, in volunteering, in being co-workers and leaders, in sustaining our ministries. Our associates have embraced the Ursuline charism and have carried the charism into their daily lives. Tonight, we welcome 6 new associates. And as we welcome them, let us all renew our commitment to each other, to our baptismal call, as we strive to live the gospel as religious, in married life, and in single life.
One of the great things I like about YouTube, or the internet in general, really, is that it's really smart. And when you ask it something, it comes up with a lot of responses immediately. So one of the ways I use it is when I'm looking for a hymn for any particular thing. Over the weekend I was looking for just different variations of hymns that might have been composed or written in honor of St. Angela. One of the ones I found that I really liked, I think must have been written by an Ursuline sister of Cincinnati, because the people singing it were a girls' choir from the academy. And, lots of high school students really have a lot of talent, and these girls did too. And so their diction was really pronounced. The melody was beautiful. It just was a very, very nice rendition. And the words of that song were taken from the reading of St. Angela that you just heard. And I'm just going to repeat a couple of the lines of it again to bring those words back to mind. Now, these are the writings of St. Angela Merici in the 16th century. For the history buffs among you, the 16th century was the time of the Reformation. Imagine, people were fighting over religion and God. Hard to believe, but there you were. And all kinds of wars among city-states. And here's what St. Angela wrote to the members of her community. I urge you, with all the ardor of my soul, that you live in harmony, united together in one heart and one will. Be bound to one another by the bond of charity, treating each other with respect, helping one another, bearing with one another in Christ Jesus. See how important this union and harmony is. For that reason, long for it, search for it, embrace it, and hold it with all your strength. For I tell you that if you are living together united in heart, you will be like a mountain fortress. You will be like a tower of strength against attacks, assaults, and the cunning of the devil. Those are pretty ominous words at the end, aren't they? But I think and I've often thought this, there are a lot of parallels between the 16th century and our own day. We know that the root motivation of St. Angela was as a disciple of Jesus. She quotes scripture frequently in her writings, sometimes almost directly, which I think was kind of unique for her time, given that the printing press was a relatively new invention at that time. But sometimes she doesn't quote it directly, she paraphrases it. The words about that live in harmony remind me of the last discourse of Jesus that's recorded in the Gospel of St. John. One of the things that Jesus says over and over again in that last discourse is this: do not let your hearts be troubled. What a lovely phrase, isn't it? But I've often thought to myself, if I were one of the disciples and I got a sense that the guy who's talking to me is fearing an impending death, and that if he's going, I might be next, then I think I have a right to have my heart be troubled, right? Nevertheless, Jesus says over and over and over again, do not let your hearts be troubled. I think those of us who live in this early 21st century might feel the same way. We have every reason to let our hearts be troubled. We live in uncertain times, and on so many fronts. It was just last Monday that as a country, we marked the inauguration of the 47th president. And since then, there's been a whole series of orders that have radically shifted the way we think about who we are individually, who we are as a country, and what our relationship is to the rest of the world. Whether you like Donald Trump, don't like him, agree with his policies or don't agree with them, things are changing. And they're changing really fast. But I wonder, what's the future going to be like? What's the future going to be like regarding the poor? What's the future going to be like regarding health care? What's the future going to be like regarding refugees and immigrants? What's the future going to be like even for planet Earth? I want to say to Jesus, and I want to say to St. Angela, of course my heart is troubled. But then I think back to what Jesus said. Don't let your hearts be troubled. And I think about St. Angela's words. Live in harmony, united together in one heart and one will. Now, I don't know about you, but I find it easy sometimes to give in to the negativity. It is so easy to complain about the weather, about the economy, about the price of gas or eggs or whatever you happen to be buying, about politics. And if you're a sports fan, isn't it easy to complain about what the coach just did or what the player just did? You know, even a golfer. Oh, what's that guy thinking? He hit it right in the water. Well, I'm pretty sure he wasn't hitting right to the water. Nevertheless, it's so easy to fall into that negativity. The words of St. Angela keep coming back to me. Live in harmony. The older I get, the more I'm aware of how little anything I can do, and really, those of us gathered here, anything we can do that will really change the whole world. But I believe it is possible for us to change and dramatically change our part of the world. Whatever our part of the world is, where you live, where you work, where you shop, where you hang out, it really is pretty easy to change that. And especially so if we treat each other with charity, and with mutual respect. And the other thing I've learned is that's a choice I have to make every day. Every day. Because there are some days it's pretty easy to wake up. And I think, isn't it a wonderful day? Thanks be to God. And this afternoon, well, even this morning, 7 o'clock this morning, you knew it was going to be a clear day. On a day like today, it's easy to walk into the day with a smile on your face. But sometimes that's hard. And so it's a choice. It's a choice that we make every day. It's a choice that we make over and over and over again. I think that's one of the best consequences of something like our associate program. Good people, many of whom are gathered here, good people, join with the Ursuline sisters in faith as disciples of Christ and as daughters and sons of St. Angela. And we do so because we want to live our lives in our culture, in our time, in a different way than the negativity of uncertain times. We don't want to give in to despair. We want to live in harmony, bound to one another, in charity and in mutual respect. Now, I've been talking a bit about our own local kind of politics, not local politics, but local in the sense of America. But if you can think back a few years in the church, it was 2005 when Joseph Ratzinger was elected Pope. And at that time, there was a lot of fear about what his papacy would be like. There were some who referred to him as kind of a German Rottweiler, right? And it was kind of like, oh no, how can we get this guy as our Pope? He had a really good reputation as a great theologian, but people weren't sure what a papacy of Ratzinger would be like. I think it's interesting that now when we look back on the papacy of Benedict XVI, and you say, so what were those years like? He was Pope for about 8 years. What were those years like? The very first encyclical that Pope Benedict wrote was called Deus Caritas Est. God is love. Now imagine, from the guy that people were afraid was going to be the German Rottweiler, his very first encyclical was on love. And you know what the second one was on? Hope. Space solving. So there he is in this papacy and his major reflections that he wants to offer to the whole church are first on love and second on hope. And then he was in the midst of writing a third one that actually Pope Francis completed. It's an interesting document to read because Ratzinger started it and Pope Francis finished it. But guess what it's on? Faith, right? Lumen Fidei. Another way to think about that is to remember that Benedict, who was feared as a rigid churchman, makes his first contribution to us, and perhaps his most important contribution to us as Pope, to think about the theological virtues. Now, one of the ancient practices of the church, and one that everybody who was formed in religious life remembers, is the practice of examen. At the end of the day, or sometimes in the course of the day, you would ask yourself the question, what happened today? What are the events of my life in this day? So you go through everything that you did in the day, and you think about the conversations that you had. And the task is to say, where was God in the midst of my day? Part of the practice of examen is to try to get more familiar with recognizing where God is present in your day when it actually happens, and not always in hindsight, right? It's often in hindsight that we know. Examen is to try and get you to recognize it when it's actually there. And so there's that practice. And so you can ask, where is God? But another way to think about that is to put it just in the context of love. What happened in the course of my day today? What conversations did I have? Who did I encounter? And in those events, in those conversations, did I do the loving thing? Did I say the loving thing? It's another way of asking what St. Angela prompts us to do. Live in harmony. Live with mutual respect. Be bound to one another with the bonds of charity. It's a choice we make every day. And hopefully we'll continue to do that for the rest of our lives. We gather this evening to welcome 6 new associates to our band. In the old days of religious life, you called the people who gathered together on the same day to enter on the same day. We called them a band. And now we're asking you to join our band. Let all of us, not just these new associates, let all of us renew a commitment to live as St. Angela suggested. To live in harmony, to be bound to one another in charity and mutual respect. Because if Angela is right, that's what will make us strong. These virtues will help us to live well in uncertain times.
I'm going to call 3 groups forward at this time. Those who are renewing their commitment, those who will be making an initial commitment as an associate, and their mentors. So at this time, those who are renewing after living and bringing the associate into the charism into their lives are Cindy Forchnack, Pam Pasquale, Vicki Vickers. Those who are making their commitment for the first time, Taylor C. Acharya, Jennifer DePizzo, Maureen D. Tomaso, Nan Jacobs, Paulina Montaldo, Mitzi Smith. And the mentors that have been meeting with the new associates are Peggy Eicher, Sister Regina Rogers, Pam Pasquale, and Cindy Lacko, and Barbara Spencer.
I was going to do this as the microphone, but I think people can hear me if I stand here. Okay, good. So I ask you, are you resolved to join the Ursuline Sisters in our mission and ministry to God's people?
I am.
Are you resolved to deepen your prayer life as a daughter of St. Angela?
I am.
Are you resolved to reflect on and make choices in working or volunteering in line with the mission and ministry of the Ursuline Sisters?
I am.
Are you resolved to share on a regular basis with the Ursuline Sisters through community celebrations, associate gatherings, and joining occasionally in meals with the local community or the Mother House community?
I am.
Then, in the name of all here present, I accept your commitment to live as an Ursuline associate, and we, the Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown, agree to share with you in prayer, in hospitality, and in occasions where we will promote spiritual growth and ministry. So please join me now in welcoming our new associates. And I think the brand new associates, not those renewing, but they'll receive their medal, right? Got it.
As you return to your places, take Angela's words with you to serve as nourishment for your spiritual growth. In the words of our mother, Saint Angela, we encourage you to persevere faithfully and joyfully in the work you have begun. So to our 16